Ice sculpting the landscape. The majority of the British Isles lay beneath hundreds of meters of ice as recently as 18,000 years ago. Even the summit of Ben Nevis was then buried by over 350 meters of ice. Underneath the ice, the landscape was slowly modified as great valleys and massive hollows were gouged and scraped out of hard resistant rocks by the power of the ice. Ice is capable of widespread demolition of the landscape in upland areas, and extensive deposition in great valleys. Features created by one advance of the ice may be obliterated by the next. Given Britain's icy history, it is hardly surprising that much of the landscape of the British Isles has been shaped by ice sheets and glacier. The degree of modification of the landscape by ice increases northwards. Intensely glaciated areas, such as the Cairngorm and Northwest Mountains, the Lake District and Snowdonia, are in great contrast to the southern areas which have never been glaciated. A drop in temperature of about 3 degrees Celsius could see the return of glacier in highland areas. Some glaciologists think that we are living through a short interglacial at present and that the ice will return in about 3,000 years if human influence doesn't change our climate. Glacial erosion. Erosion is largely due to moving ice, which carries with it rock debris. Glaciers that carry a great deal of morainic material can drastically change the landscape, largely through mechanical processes. Abrasion, the grinding and crushing of rocks, is accomplished by the rock debris frozen into the lower layers of a glacier. The rock debris acts like sandpaper, abrading the landscape and itself in the erosive process. Plucking occurs as the glacier drags over the bedrock. Plucking will occur where the rock is already weakened by pressure and freeze-thaw action under the glacier. Freeze-thaw or frost shattering also produces a great deal of loose material from the valley sides, which become incorporated into the sides of the glacier as lateral moraine. Some of this material may pass into the glacier through crevasses and be transported as in glacial debris. Rock fragments embedded in the sides and base of the glacier ice have also left scratches or striations on some otherwise smooth rock surfaces. These striations are clear evidence of the directions of ice movements. On a medium scale, features such as Roche-Smootenice show the two main forms of erosion which have produced the feature. Pressure increases as the glacier meets an obstruction, producing some meltwater that lubricates the glacier. On the upstream side of the Roche-Smootenice, the smoothing of the feature is caused by the sliding of the glacier and abrasion from the debris caught in the base of the glacier, sometimes marked by clear striations, indicating the direction of glacier flow. On the lee side of the feature, the glacier refreezes and plucks the rock to form the more ragged, uneven side of the feature. Another common feature of glacial erosion is the corrie, also known as a cirque or combe. These are armchair-shaped hollows with a steep back wall and rock basin. They are commonly found on north or northeast-facing slopes, where snow accumulation would be highest. There are several stages in the formation of a corrie. A preglacial hollow in the mountain slope would be enlarged by nivation, which is freeze-thaw action to break up the rock and removal by snow melt. Snow and ice would then accumulate in the hollow, and once it reaches a depth and weight to start moving downhill, would erode the floor further by abrasion and plucking. A bergschrund or deep crevasse at the top of the corrie glacier is formed by rotational movement of the ice, and meltwater entering the bergschrund would aid freeze-thawing on the back wall of the corrie and seep through to the base of the glacier. After glaciation, an armchair hollow remains, sometimes filled with a lake or corrie locan, tarn in the lake. District. The corrie may have a pronounced rock lip, which is formed because of a reduction in erosion as the rotational flow moves the ice over the lip. When two adjacent corries erode towards each other, they form an arete, a steep rocky ridge, such as Striding Edge in the Lake District. Pyramidal peaks, horns, are caused by the headward erosion of three or more corries, e.g., the Matterhorn. The glacial troughs or U-shaped valleys have steep sides and flat valley floors. They tend to be fairly straight, truncating the interlocking spurs of any preglacial valley. These features are called truncated spurs and may be interspaced by hanging valleys, which result from the differential erosion of valley and tributary glacier. The deepening of the valleys is achieved by the valley glacier, aided by large volumes of meltwater and subglacial debris. Parts of the valley floor may be overdeepened and later occupied by ribbon lakes, e.g. Loch Avon. The valleys may also accommodate rock steps that have been more resistant to erosion. Crag and tail. A crag and tail are formed when a large resistant outcrop, such as a volcanic plug, forces the ice over and around the plug. The softer surrounding rock is eroded and some softer rock is protected on the lee side of the obstruction. Glacial debris may also be deposited on this lee side. Edinburgh Castle Rock and the Royal Mile is a famous crag and tail. Cairngorms, upland glaciation. The areas of the British Isles which have been intensely glaciated are mainly uplands, including the Cairngorm Mountains. The present landscape of these mountains is the result of millions of years of uplift and erosion. The story begins 750 million years ago when shales, sandstones, and limestones were deposited on top of ancient crustal rocks. These sediments were then metamorphosed, changed into new rocks by heat or pressure, during the Caledonian orogeny about 500 million years BP. During this violent period, these rocks were heaved into huge overfolds, tens of kilometers across. They were upfolds high enough to form a range of mountains similar to the Alps today. About 400 million years BP, large masses of molten rock, magma, were pushed upwards into the roots of these mountains. The magma cooled to form a granite batholith beneath the peaks. In the years since then, all the overlying and much of the surrounding rocks have been removed by erosion to reveal the present-day landscape. What we see today are not the ancient peaks, but their worn-down granite roots. A large area of the Cairngorm Mountains has the landscape of a dissected plateau, an area of high, relatively flat land cut by deep erosion. In great contrast to most of the south and east of the British Isles, the Cairngorms are a higher, harsher landscape. The granite is a light pink color with a high proportion of feldspar crystals. Where the granite lies exposed at the surface, it is easily weathered. This produces a landscape of rounded summits, boulder-strewn slopes and occasional tors.